Sequel number 113. Governor Jackson retires from the Uganda Protectorate, but he was interested in an assistant bishop for Kampala. Welcome. The Church of Uganda at 150 years, a celebration through history. In this particular sequel, in the year 1919, Governor Sir Frederick John Jackson had returned to England. He had been governor for 8 years, having taken off the office in 1911. At Nakasero was a chapel which had begun in 1912. The foundation, and then the construction, and then the consecration by 1914. The governor was also a regular congregant at the St. John's Chapel in Entebbe. And so he was familiar with the two congregations at Entebbe and at Nakasero. And these chapel were basically for Europeans only, or if you were a Goan, because Goans have a history of Christianity, so they were accepted in their services. And by the time Sir Frederick John Jackson left Uganda in 1918, the congregations had grown so big. And so Sir Frederick John Jackson, upon arriving in London, decided to visit the Archbishop of Canterbury. At that time, he was His Grace, the Most Reverend Randall Thomas Davidson. In that particular time, Bishop Willis was, of course, the Bishop of Uganda. And he had also one time been a chaplain at Entebbe. In fact, that was his last posting before he became Archdeacon of Kavirondo in 1905. Before that, he was in Mbarara. I think that is where he arrived. That's the posting he got immediately on arrival in Uganda. Very interesting, because why would a governor be interested in church business? Well, I don't know whether it was church business or it was concern about his own people, the Europeans in Uganda. And so, at the Lambeth Palace, Jackson explained the big congregation of whites that deserved a bishop of their own. He also proposed that he could work as an assistant to the Bishop of Uganda, but based at Nakasero and not Namirembe. Ironically, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Randall Thomas Davidson, was very excited with the idea, and he immediately set to work on the very issue. He identified a priest, and he was very clever. He looked for somebody who was a former schoolmate of the Bishop of Uganda. The two, Willis and the bishop, and the man he thought could be consecrated an assistant bishop for him, they had attended the Haileybury Elementary and Secondary School in England. He was the Venerable Reverend Herbert Gresford Jones, who was 2 years older than Bishop Willis. The Venerable Reverend Jones had by then been a priest for almost 25 years, a lot of experience. And so, one of the best experienced. He was the Archdeacon of Sheffield. He therefore nominated him to become the first assistant bishop of Kampala, and the Reverend Jones accepted. Now, in Uganda, the communication was received by Bishop Willis. and the communication did not interest him at all. He was not amused by the news from England that an assistant bishop was being proposed to sit at Nakasero and to take care of the Nakasero Entebbe congregations. Of course, Graceful John was known to Willis as his senior. And according to Willis, he thought Jones had no missionary calling. There was another problem. By 1920, the Bishop of Uganda, Bishop Willis, was still a bachelor. He didn't have a wife. And Graceful Jones was married. So here was a bishop who was going to come to Uganda with a wife. Now, how would it look when your assistant has a wife and for you, you were a senior bachelor? And poor Bishop Willis had no plans to get married that early. And so he was worried about an assistant showing off around with a wife. Now, you may say, this is so trivial an item. Yes, however trivial it was important. It was important as far as the Nakasero and Entebbe Europeans were concerned. Bishop Willis also thought that the Europeans were very well and adequately covered for in his programs to warrant a wall assistant bishop. Unfortunately for Bishop Willis, he could not resist the wish of Archbishop Davidson of Canterbury, and therefore waited. There was also something to remember. The same Archbishop, Randall Thomas Davidson, had chose Willis over another very experienced priest, the Archdeacon of the Diocese of Uganda by then, called Herbert Walker. In fact, Herbert Walker, shortly after the appointment of Willis, resigned and he went back to London. So Willis did not want to be an antagonist as far as this appointment was concerned. And he accepted to get an assistant, but he also knew that he was prepared to accept Graceful Jones, but that he vowed to work to frustrate him to the point of giving up. This we shall observe in the next few sequels. May the good Lord bless us all.